Hi everyone, I'm the Limitless Librarian, and today we've got a bit of a different video for you. So this week I posted two reviews, one for the book Psyche and Eros by Luna McNamara and the other Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. Both of these books I read or finished this month as part of my Dimmick's reading challenge, and it was kind of a coincidence that these were just the last two books on that list. However, both of them had one thing in common, or rather two things. The first being that the two books sought, or rather put an emphasis on exploring feminist ideas, especially in regards to traditionally male roles. One as the hero of a Greek myth, and the other as a woman in STEM. The other thing that they have in common, however, is that they both did a pretty bad job of exploring and promoting these messages. So the purpose of this video is to expand upon the issues exploring these two books, and also potentially feminist fiction in general, why they are harmful, and what we can maybe do to not make the same mistakes in future. It's sort of an addendum to things discussed in those reviews, but also it conveniently ties into International Women's Day, which was earlier this month. I didn't do anything for that because I was mainly focused on what I was going to do for Pi Day. So that's a nice tie-in, I guess. And so this is as good a time as any to get all of this out of my system. So I narrowed these issues down to three major pitfalls. Before we get into that, there's one thing that we need to clear up, because it is a very common misconception, and I suspect that may tie into some of the problems that these books have, and also maybe potentially causing some people to mistakenly call themselves anti-feminist when they're actually not, if you understand what they actually believe. Feminism is not a belief that women are superior to men. I will say that again because the word itself is a bit misleading, and this seems to be a common misconception. Being feminist does not mean that you believe that women are superior to men. Feminism is a belief that both sexes should be treated equally, that men and women should be treated equally in society, in politics, at work, whatever. It does not put one sex above the other, or promote the idea that either one of them is bad. It means that both sexes should be treated equally. And this ties into the first of our three pitfalls of feminist fiction. Number one, there is a fine line between promoting feminist ideas and being anti-men. Do not cross it. This was particularly prevalent in the book Lessons in Chemistry, where it felt like just about every man in the book, bar one or two major characters, was a one-dimensional, cartoonishly evil caricature who was simply there to be an obstacle to the protagonist's path. The book painted this picture of every man being out to get women and stamp down on them and put them in their place. But even for the book's 1960 setting, I don't really believe that was true. It is true that there are certainly men who would have done the sort of things that our protagonist has to suffer in the book. However, the way these men are portrayed, they don't feel like real people. This diminishes the message and the themes and the empowerment that was intended in this book, because these situations don't feel believable. These do not feel like the sort of men that women have to deal with in real life, even if the problems may be real. So it doesn't feel empowering when our protagonist overcomes them, because since we can't believe that these men are real, We can't believe that we could overcome these problems just as easily as protagonist Elizabeth Zott does. There's a far bigger issue with this whole anti-men issue in feminist fiction, and that is, of course, that men are going to be less receptive to it. Why would they want to read or take seriously a book that is promoting this idea that they're all bad people? If I want to recommend a feminist book to a man to sort of show him the sort of issues that we have to deal with as women, he's at best not going to take it seriously because of the unrealistically bad depictions of men, knowing that men are not really like that. And at worst, he is going to feel attacked, personally attacked, as if this is how we women believe men really are, that we see all men as the bad guys, or think that we are morally superior to them, which is not the case. So at best, the male audience to these books will simply not take them seriously or their messages, because if this is what women believe about men, then our beliefs are fundamentally flawed and based on a false idea anyway. And at worst, they're going to double down on their ideas of anti-feminism, if indeed this book was recommended to them with the purpose of correcting these misconceptions. Why should men respect women if this is how we portray men, in this disrespectful, one-dimensional, oversimplified way? So how can we prevent this? Well, as a feminist fiction author, consider all of the male characters in your book and whether they are as fleshed out as your female ones. For each man in your book, think about why he does the things that he does, good and bad. It's admittedly probably kind of hard to write a feminist fiction book without having at least one man do something problematic that the female protagonists can object to, but there should be a logical reason behind that, rather than just, this book needs a villain, therefore we need to make this guy do something bad. The men in your book should serve a greater purpose than just being the bad guys, being the obstacle for the protagonist to overcome. They should have just as much depth as your female characters. So if you have a male character doing something bad, think about what led up to that decision. Think about how the males really feel about the females and why they hold those beliefs. And also think about how the females feel about the males, and again, why they hold those beliefs. If your female characters are frequently experiencing sexual discrimination, then sure, it makes sense that they might become jaded over the time and kind of, pessimistic about the intentions of male characters in their lives. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that they're set in that belief for life, or that that belief is the correct one. Just because there's a reason behind that belief does not mean that it's correct. The second pitfall that I've found with feminist fiction is the dismissal of any stereotypical feminine ideas, hobbies, or interests. It is the misconception that a strong female character is not allowed to have any of these such interests, whether it's simply liking the colour pink, or liking pretty clothes, or wanting to be pretty, pursuing stereotypically feminine interests, hobbies, jobs, or gender roles, like cooking, or sewing, dancing, fashion, whatever, or that she can't have stereotypically female ideas, like wanting to get married and have kids. This is an issue that comes up a lot with the quote-unquote strong female protagonist idea, where they are taking on all these typically masculine roles like the sword-wielding hero of legend, but at the same time they are completely dismissing anything female and seeming to think that they are better or living a more meaningful life than the other women around them who are engaging in these stereotypical female pursuits or have these goals. Some of these protagonists believe that they are not allowed to do these things if they want to be taken seriously. Other such strong female protagonists dismiss them simply because the author feels that their strong female protagonist is not allowed to like stereotypically feminine things or fit any stereotypically feminine gender roles in order for their message of female empowerment to come across. However, I think this is quite the opposite. This is dangerous. It's only serving to promote the ideas that feminine things are weak or less than or not allowed if you want to be strong. I mean, think about it. If your strong female character is dismissing these girly things because she believes they are weak, then you're only promoting the idea that these stereotypically feminine things are weak. So you're basically just promoting the harmful stereotype you're trying to combat. And it's also harmful for males who might want to pursue these interests but feel self-conscious about it because they believe they are girly and thus will make them look weak, which is a common problem. It also promotes the idea that your female character is only strong because she is pursuing these stereotypically masculine occupations or interests, whether that's being a hero or a career in STEM, not because she is a strong person in and of herself. A hero is not defined by whatever fancy sword they wield or whatever pursuits they do in their spare time. A hero is defined by who they are as a person, by what they believe in, what their ideals are, what they stand for, their principles, what they're willing to sacrifice in order to uphold them. Whether they wear pink or blue, dresses or suits, has nothing to do with that. But by having your supposedly strong female protagonists dismiss feminine pursuits, ideals, goals and things simply because they are stereotypically feminine and thus they're not compatible with her pursuit of heroism or what have you, you are only serving to reinforce these stereotypes that strength is tied to masculine pursuits rather than being tied to who you are as a person and what beliefs you hold, regardless of your physical anatomy. So how can we fix this? Well, simple. You can have your heroine wielding swords and slaying monsters, but also have her like being pretty. Have her enjoy cooking dinners for the rest of her party. Or have her motivation for saving the world be that she wants to live on to have children one day, and she wants to make sure that the world she's bringing them into is one worth living in. There's no reason why you can't want to be both a hero and a mother. Those two things aren't, mutually exclusive. In fact, childbirth is said to be one of the most painful things a human being can experience. Not that I know, because I've never had kids myself, but it is, apparently. So there you go. Wanting kids does not make you weak. Because if you want kids, you know you're going to have to deal with that eventually. And yet you do it anyway. So in short, have your female characters express interests besides just those that are stereotypically masculine. Have them want to learn about things that the other women around them are doing. Even if your protagonist doesn't take an interest in those hobbies, you may want to learn why those things are important. Also, if you're looking at something that is specifically a sort of heroic sort of story, your hero and their party are going to need to eat and clothe themselves. So someone, somewhere along the line, is going to be cooking their food and making their clothes. And if we're looking at a realm that has stereotypical gender roles, then the people doing that are probably going to be women. So your hero is going to need to learn the importance of those things, even if she does not pursue those interests herself. So have her engage with the cooks and the tailors and seamstresses and whatever else, other women in those stereotypically feminine roles, and have her learn why those women wanted to do those things. Have her learn to appreciate them. The third and final pitfall of feminist fiction, which really should have been the second, but I forgot it, was don't make all of your conflicts stem from sexual discrimination. This was another big problem I had with lessons in chemistry, where all of the major conflicts that our character went through derive from sexism, whether in minor forms or more major explicit forms. And this is a problem because it makes the story feel repetitive, very one note, and very heavy-handed with its message. The people reading the story are not stupid. We get the idea that this story is supposed to be promoting women's rights and equality between sexes. We get that that's its purpose. We don't need to be reminded it over and over again. That's only going to give the impression that the author thinks the readers are stupid and can't take in that message. It also makes the story feel less interesting because it makes all of the conflicts predictable and it makes the whole thing repetitive. Also, the world is just more complex than that. So interweave this discrimination aspect with other factors that contribute to the conflict in the story. Let it exacerbate other issues that contribute to the troubles your character faces. I don't have as much to say on this point than the other two. It's pretty self-explanatory. Overdoing the same theme as the source of all the conflicts just makes the story boring, repetitive, and it makes it feel preachy because your readers will feel like they're being hit over the head over and over again with your message. And while repetition is sometimes good for helping a message get through, it's not always great. There is such a thing as too much of a good thing. And that was definitely the case with lessons in chemistry in particular. So thank you for watching this video. It was a bit different, but I had a lot of thoughts regarding the two books that I read this week, given that both of them managed to disappoint me in this one regard. And I thought it was worth discussing. What are your thoughts on feminist fiction? Have you encountered any other problems with it? Let me know in the comments below what you think of what I talked about today, and also any other pitfalls you've found in feminist books. If you liked the video and you want to see more interesting discussions on books, please like and subscribe to the channel. And with that out of the way, as always, do lots of maths, read lots of books, and I'm sure you'll have an empowering day.